Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Live at 5. This is a stream that I do at 5 o'clock every day. Sometimes I talk about the news. Sometimes I interview guests. Sometimes I talk about whatever the flip is on my mind. This might be one of those streams today. No, we do have a little bit of a structure today. What I want to focus in on today for the stream is, does social media, particularly Twitter, make people insane? And what we're going to do is we're going to read a couple of academic articles. It's going to be a little bit more of a wonky stream today. If I'm honest, it's going to be a little bit more of a wonky stream. I've got two academic articles. And not only are we going to read these academic articles together, I'm also going to walk you guys through how I approach academic research and breaking it down. And because I don't just read the whole thing start to finish, you should never just read the whole thing start to finish. And so we're going to talk about how I read academic articles, and then we're going to read these two articles. We're actually going to start with this one. We have social media use and its connection to mental health, a systematic review. And then we have this one, social media insights into US mental health during COVID-19 pandemic, a longitudinal analysis of Twitter data. I want to thank Karen from my locals community who sent me this article right here. Listen, guys, I don't know if we're going to find the answers in these articles regarding if social media makes us insane, but I think we'll learn a thing or two and we can discuss it amongst ourselves in the chat. This, to be quite frank, this is an issue I'm starting to become more and more and more concerned about, and particularly in regards to Twitter. Quite frankly, I am absolutely, totally, unequivocally convinced that Twitter makes sane people insane. Now, some people would say it just brings out the insanity that already exists within them. And I think there is probably truth to that. I think that Twitter is absolutely revealing with some people, not all people, about like an underlying issue that takes place. But I also don't think we should ever assume that, because there are many sorts of reasons why someone might see a tweet that someone sends, or something that they don't like or they think is kind of crazy. Like, when I use Twitter, maybe this is just me covering to try to cover that I'm actually insane. When I use Twitter, I play a character. It's performance art. I have said numerous times I view Twitter as performance art. And I actually think that Twitter and Gitter, especially too, you can do this on Gitter. I actually think that these types of platforms can be really amazing for helping you to explore different aspects of yourself, different sides of your personality, helping you put on different characters. If you want to be more powerful in the real world, well, guess what? Twitter, Gitter, these types of platforms, they're a place for you to practice being more powerful. If you feel like you're kind of a nerd and you want to be more of a Chad, or whatever the fuck this secret language word is that the internet people use, like if you want to be more of a Chad, you can act like a Chad on Twitter or Gitter. You can be the person that you want to be. I use it as a way to try to explore how people react to different things. I like putting outlandish things out there. I like pissing people off. For those of you who saw me retake my disc profile yesterday live on the stream, you know that I am not adverse to conflict, and I use Twitter as a way to get that out of my system, because if I'm not fighting on Twitter, guess what? I might be fighting with my husband. I would much rather fight with anonymous anime icon people on Twitter than get in a fight that could ultimately end up in leading to the dissolution of my 10-plus year marriage. That's just me. If I have an inclination to fight, if I have an inclination to argue, if I enjoy that sort of thing, well, I have to find healthy ways to channel that. But I really do think this idea of playing different characters, of exploring different aspects of yourself, there's something to that. However, what I want to explore here today is what happens when people become unhinged from reality on platforms like Twitter. And I'm focusing in on Twitter simply because in the last several months, I have seen people that I know in real life, real people, absolutely lose their minds. These are not people that I only knew from Twitter. These are people that I've had conversations with. These are people that I absolutely believe were healthy, well-adjusted, well, maybe not completely well-adjusted, but were generally relatively sane human beings before they got sucked in to the insanity that is Twitter. I have watched it happen right before my eyes. It's deeply upsetting to me. And I think what happens on Twitter is I think people, once they start using it, like if you use Twitter all day, every day, and you're constantly in that and you're constantly looking for tweets to reply to in order to remain relevant or to promote your content or to promote your ideas or to get more followers to your account, like what's going to happen on Twitter, particularly like in like the politics realm, is it is actually like it's its own niche little category of thing, right? And so if you're chasing fame, if you're chasing clout, if you're chasing followers, you're going to end up usually among people that are kind of doing the same thing. And what can happen is, and I don't like to overuse the word echo chamber a lot, but again, this is something I've witnessed directly with my own eyes. And that's not to say that's empirical evidence of anything. It's not. But I've seen people get sucked into these little micro communities where all of a sudden they're only hearing things from people in those other micro communities. And they start to build their worldview off of what people in those micro communities are saying. Now, what those people are saying may or may not have any resemblance to reality at all. And I think any of us who watched the Q phenomenon play out knows exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, this is what happened with Q is these people got sucked into this alternate reality on social media where they were constantly surrounded by other people who were only existing in this alternate reality, and they convinced themselves of some really crazy stuff that was not true because it was constantly being reinforced by the people that they were around every single day. I mean, maybe it's even worth I'm focusing on Twitter probably because that's the platform I notice it on, but you know what really scares the shit out of me? Telegram. I have been into the bowels of Telegram. Telegram's a scary place. I'm not saying Telegram is fundamentally bad or that the people on it are fundamentally bad, but what I say, hang on, I gotta clear my throat. What I think about Telegram is that it is one of those things that it's like Telegram is like the cast-offs of society. Everyone who has ever been canceled on Twitter or banned on Twitter goes to like Telegram and Gab. Gab is another interesting little universe, right? But Telegram is one of those things that like you have to make a special effort to go to Telegram. Like you have to download an app on your phone, you have to look for stuff. Gab's a little bit easier, I think, but Telegram is like its own little walled off community that if you don't want to go to Telegram, you're not going to Telegram. But I got to be honest, like at like I Lynn Wood's Telegram has been one of my guilty pleasures. I haven't been there in a while, but I used to go there quite a bit. Lynn Wood's Telegram is amazing and it's insane. And it is hundreds of thousands of people that are fundamentally unhinged from reality, that are focused on their dear leader, that are only taking cues from each other. It's scary. It is. Now, I fully believe that these people should have the right to say what they want to say and believe that what they want to believe, but I do think that the fact that they've been cast out of proper society into the bowels of Telegram where they just spin each other up all day every day, and they all have, you know what it is? What I see in these communities, whether it be on Twitter or Gab or Telegram or wherever, the amount of self-righteousness that comes in these communities. They all have this air of self-righteousness about them, that they are the only ones who know the truth about what is going on. And they obviously know the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And nothing you can say to them can convince them, and no amount of evidence that you can give them can convince them that maybe you didn't get it right. Maybe you missed some stuff. And so then what happens is they all start engaging in confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is essentially the idea that you only look at information and evidence that confirms what you already believe is the answer. So you purposefully seek out information and evidence that backs up what you believe is the answer. Yeah, Brent, I know it's all social media, but there are places where it's more bad than others. There are places where it's more pronounced. I have looked at this stuff on a lot of different sites. And so once you start engaging in confirmation bias and you start rejecting any and all evidence that contradicts your worldview, then you start to have some problems. Then you start to become fundamentally unhinged from reality. And then you also start to participate in the fundamental attribution error, which basically says that, I mean, like, I'm gonna appropriate the fundamental attribution error for the purpose of this chat. Basically, what happens is if someone tries to go into these communities and say, guys, like, can you look at this evidence over here? Because you might not have it quite right. All of a sudden, that person gets labeled as the most evil spy, leftist spy, someone who's trying to trick them. It becomes very cult-like and it becomes very conspiratorial, and I really do think it sucks fundamentally good people in, and having now witnessed directly this happening to people that I care about, I'm I'm distressed by what I've seen. I'm highly, highly distressed, and I know, like, this is coming up for me because it hit personally for me, but that's actually even more scary because this means this is probably happening to a lot of people, and I just didn't really notice or think about it to any great depth until it impacted me, which I guess is human nature, and, like, we're all fundamentally selfish. We usually don't think about things until they impact us directly. So, that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna read a couple articles. I've got some other stuff I wanna share with you guys. I just wanna take a couple super chats. Thank you. Emphasize, "The insanity is contagious. There are no blue check marks on Twitter. In light mode, the check marks are white, and in dark mode, the check marks are black." Well, and that's the other thing. Like the blue check influencers, dude, they will do whatever they need to do to maintain their clout. They will say whatever they need to say. They will twist things. I'm not saying there aren't good ones. There absolutely are good ones, but they are few and far between. Never trust a blue check. I hope that I will never have an effing check next to my name on Twitter. If I do ever get a check next to my name, it will be against my will. It will be because Twitter gave it to me without me asking. I do not want it. I do not want it at all. Naruto says, "This is why I advocate taking a week or weekend off social media on a consistent basis." Well, what I'm doing now, Naruto, is I'm starting to spend less time on Twitter. Now, don't get me wrong. I ooh, I just got an interesting text. Thank you, Nick. If you're watching, I'll text you back in a few. So what the heck was I even just saying? Oh, I am starting to come back from Twitter. I'm not using it as much. Now I still use it for news and stuff like that, and I have a whole list of people who I get notifications from that are people that I do want to make sure that I'm checking in with because I think they've reliably tweeted stuff I'm interested in. People like Chris Rufo's on my list, James Lindsay's on my list, Mike Cernovich is actually on my list because I think he's just really interesting to me. I have a lot of like the unwoke people that I get notifications for, things like that, things that I care about. So I'm using it to check in on news, but really, I'm not engaging much on Twitter anymore. I made the decision last night, and this has been coming for a while for me, to be honest, simply because like do not I do not think it's good for me. I don't think it makes me feel good. And I think Gitter has actually been pretty pivotal in my decision making process on this because when I go on Gitter, it is a completely different energy. So I'm not here saying that all social media is bad. I don't think all social media is fundamentally bad. It is a night and day experience for me from Twitter to Gitter. I have a much better experience on Gitter. It's much more pleasant. The energy is better. It's not as like when you log on to Twitter, you are very literally going to war. You are going to war. And I think that's true whether or not you have an account, like I have like 78,000 followers or something, or you have like a couple hundred followers. I don't really think your follower count plays into this. I think you obviously get more notifications when you have more followers in theory, unless you're shadow banned to high heaven like I am. But even the smaller accounts, I think it's true regardless of how many followers you have. You're going to war. And you can't wake up and go to war every single day, all day, spending all your time on this goddamn platform without it impacting you after a while. And I know there have been times when it impacts me. Now, I don't regret anything I've done on Twitter. I have Twitter storms sometimes when I'm proactively trying to piss off conservatives. Sometimes I'm just in a mood. Sometimes I'm just in a mood and I want to fight, and it's easy to piss off conservatives on Twitter, okay? I think that yeah, naughty one, I would never be shadow banned. That would never happen. That would never happen. No, I'm ridiculously shadow banned right now. Twitter has me in some sort of algorithm where like I'm not allowed to do certain things on their platforms that like everyone else can do. I tried to switch my account over to a professional account like a week ago. They won't let me. They literally won't let me. They say your account is restricted from performing this action. So I can't even right now switch my personal account to a professional account on Twitter because they've got me in some like cordoned off bad people, whatever. Anyway, so we're going to talk about why, like, does Twitter make people insane? We're going to read a couple of articles together. Let me make sure I get this up on my screen. And that's pretty much what we're gonna do today. But listen, guys, I do not want to promise this, but I may be streaming again at 8 p.m. tonight. I think I figured this out. And by the way, if any member of my locals community can help me figure this out before 8 p.m. tonight, maybe we can get together after this stream. I would really appreciate it because I may be coming back to covertly stream. We're not going to tell anyone. We're just going to do it. I have a Zoom invite to this webinar tonight called Confronting the Rise of School Board Disruptions. It's a virtual event, and you can see it is a bunch of lefty skin people who are going to talk about how all the evil, right leaning parents are daring to come to school board meetings and what they should do about it. I have an invitation to this webinar, and what I want to do is I want to get my ass into that Zoom webinar and then stream it live on my channel so everyone else can watch it too, so we can see what they're saying. It's a little bit subversive, but the thing is, I can't get it to work. I have been playing around. I have done this before. I have actually done this before, but for some reason I cannot make this work right now. But I think I may have figured it out like literally 15 minutes ago or 15 minutes before the stream started. So I'm going to put a call out in my locals right after the stream today. And if someone can just jump on to a Zoom meeting with me and we can kind of work around the sound thing so I can test it, so I can make sure that the sound is actually coming in, I would really appreciate it. I think I may have hit on the problem that I was having earlier, but I just want to do a little test run. And then if we can get it working, I will be back at 8 p.m. tonight to stream this stream so that we can all watch it together. It's a fun little group activity. Nothing could go wrong with this plan. Nothing at all. Emphasize says, I don't want any followers. The followers I have on YouTube are from me live streaming Hurricane Michael until the power went out. I think that's a really good attitude to have. Emphasize. Yeah, anyone can come and help me test this. I'm just going to put out a call in locals after this stream. And if you just want to hop onto the Zoom meeting, and basically all I need is for people to talk so I can, what I need to do, and if anyone knows how to do this specifically, what I need to do is route the sound from a Zoom meeting into StreamYard. I think I've got it set up. I did it well before. I don't know what happened between the last time I did it and now, but something has broken and I can't figure out what it is. And I just need some help figuring that out. So we'll work it out. And that's hopefully gonna be pretty great. And if it happens, guys, I'll be posting in locals on Twitter, on Gitter, and all my social media about that tonight. So just keep an eye out if you want to see it. But before we get into that, speaking of my locals, if you enjoy the work I do and you want to keep me streaming at 5 p.m. every single day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you can join my locals community. To help me do that, you can join locals for $5 a month. You can join for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. And the great thing about making a one-time gift through locals is it unlocks the features of locals for the duration of that gift. Locals also has an app if you'd like to make a gift on there. That's cool as well. And so what locals does is it gives you a place to go. It gives you a refuge. It gives you a place where there is no insanity, no trolls, no algorithms. My locals is awesome. I have spent the last year curating my locals. I have spent the last year making sure that the people who just weren't good fits for my community left and went on their merry way. And I wish them well. They just weren't a good fit for my community. That doesn't mean they're not a good fit for many other communities out there. And the result of this is that the energy in my locals is awesome. We are the bad news bears of the internet. We are going to be starting an unwoke army to push back against woke nonsense and chaos. We're getting really excited about it. I genuinely love my locals. I consider many of them to be friends, and I invite anyone who might be a good fit to come and join the community. Naruto says, watch the social network. Social media was designed to be addictive. People that created social media don't let their kids have it. Well, the social network, but then there's also that documentary on Netflix that generally shows how they make people insane. Um, but speaking of the unwoke army that we have in my locals, I do want to remind everyone that my book, Actively Unwoke, is available for pre-order right now on activelyunwoke.com. And just earlier today, excuse me, just earlier today, I got a new endorsement for my book, which I'm really excited about. Gabrielle Clark, who you all know, she's been on the channel many times, is one of the bravest, strongest women I've ever met. She is the mom in Nevada who filed the first ever lawsuit against critical race theory in the country. She has come out and endorsed the book. She says Actively Unwoke is the perfect common sense guide to understanding and fighting the woke. We've been hit with a barrage of books from pontificating academics that neither make things clearer nor do they tell us what to do about the situation. This book does both. And I really appreciated Gabs's comments here. You know, I had two priorities when I wrote Actively Unwoke. First thing I wanted to do was to explain the woke phenomena in everyday English that normal people who are busy because they have jobs and kids and lives, I wanted to write it in plain English in a way that everyone can understand. Now, I have no problem with pontificating academics. I think that pontificating academics have done a lot of great work in this area. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of them don't know how to speak normal human being. I do know how to speak normal human being. I've always been really good at taking complex concepts and making and like drilling them down into like the most essential information that you need to know out of them. And that's what I tried to do with Actively Unwoke. I tried to take James Lindsay, who is wonderful and fabulous and vital and critical. I tried to take James Lindsay and translate him to normal person. Because James Lindsay has his own language. He does. A lot of people understand James Lindsay. A lot of people listen to 4-hour podcasts and things like that. And I think those things are awesome. And God bless him for doing that. Some people don't have the time or the attention span or, quite frankly, the intellect. James Lindsay is basically the smartest person I've ever met in my life. Not everyone, most people are not as smart as him. So we needed a translator. And I tried to provide that translator. My second priority with Actively Unwoke was to give actionable strategies and tools, things that every single person can step up and do in their lives. There are 4 different chapters filled with actionable strategies. I cover strategies for the schools. I cover strategies for your work environments. I cover strategies for the government, and I cover strategies to influence culture. More artsy, creative stuff. So I've given you a whole laundry list of strategies, and in my community, in my locals community, we are going to actually be creating more of those strategies. So something that's going to be coming for Actively Unwoke. I thought it was going to be this week, but I've just been like way too busy, way too underwater. I apologize, guys. But next week, it is absolutely coming. I'm launching the Unwoke Army for my locals supporters next week. And what we're going to do is we're going to come together and we're going to crowdsource and we're going to mastermind different strategies for fighting back against the woke. And we're going to create a whole knowledge base that will be freely available on activelyunwoke.com that anyone can log in. You want a strategy for fighting back in your schools? Here are 15 different things you can do. You want a strategy for when woke training comes to your workplace? Here are 15 different things that you can do, and hopefully many more than 15, because we're going to keep this mastermind up. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a group effort. You are not always going to have to be a supporter in my locals to join, but you are going to for the first round, only local supporters are allowed to join the Unwoke Army. And the reason that I'm starting with my supporters is because I know my supporters. My supporters have skin in the game. A lot of them have been supporting me for the better part of 2 years. And so I'm starting with a smaller group of people I know and people that I trust to start building out these ideas. And then we're going to add more people in. But if you really want to get in first, you want to become a supporter, there's going to be a whole application process, even for supporters, because I have rules and standards in my Unwoke Army that I'm not gonna take any nonsense or grief or whining or complaining or interpersonal nonsense. We're focused on the goal. And that's why I'm starting with my supporters, because they know what the priorities are. Alex S says wokeness is actively supported by the CCP via BLM. It'll end this country. That's why I'm fighting back against it, Alex. That's why I'm doing the very best I can. All right, guys. Actually, let me get my ticker to remind you where to go to become a supporter. Now, couple quick announcements. Well, one more quick announcement, and then we're going to get into these articles. Tomorrow, we are doing happy hour on my second channel, activelyunwoke.com. However, usually happy hour is at 5 p.m. Tomorrow, it will not be at 5 p.m. Tomorrow, it will be at 2 p.m. It's a little early for happy hour, a little early for drinking. I understand for those of you on the West Coast, that's like 11 a.m. I mean, you can still drink a mimosa. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the reason that we're doing it early is because the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire State Convention starts tomorrow. And we have an event that starts at 5, like a get together in a bar where we're going to drink beer and hang out. And I need to go to the event. So I need to be done in order to get myself ready, put on a pair of pants, and drive over to the bar to have some beers with the Libertarians at 5 p.m. I'm sorry. State convention is an important thing. This is an important state convention for us. There's some people I want to talk to tomorrow about some other stuff that's going on that are going to be there, I think. So we're doing happy hour at 2 p.m. tomorrow. It's early, but it's a good one because I have a video that literally just got put on YouTube today. Literally just got put on YouTube today. We are going to be watching this video that the school, okay, so fun fact for the critical race theory is not taught in K through 12 schools. The school district of Philadelphia, Office of Diversity Inclusion, they have a YouTube channel. The Office of Curriculum and Instruction has a commitment to social justice through curriculum equity that is rooted in our culturally and linguistically inclusive foundation. These are the public schools in Philadelphia. They have a YouTube channel in which they're posting blatant critical race theory stuff and doing, look at this, equity in curriculum. Equity is code for critical race theory. You cannot have critical race theory without equity. You cannot have equity without critical race theory. They've got an hour-long video about the equity in the curriculum in Philadelphia schools that they just posted today. So we're going to be watching that tomorrow at happy hour at 2 p.m. Don't worry, in case they suss this out, I've already downloaded the video. So I have a backup. Naruto asked possibly the most important question of the day. He says, is Carlin getting pre-drunk at 2 p.m. and full drunk at 5 p.m.? I'm not going to get drunk at all. I don't know what you're talking about, Naruto. I don't know what you're I never get drunk on the internet and then go to a bar and drink more. That would never happen. No, I am gonna take it a little bit light tomorrow. I will not be getting pre-drunk. I am gonna go get a beer or two, because really I can't sit through this crap without having a beer or two. But I don't plan on getting like drunk drunk. No. I gotta drive tomorrow, man. There's supposed to be a snowstorm. Fun fact, apparently the GOP in New Hampshire are such pansies that they canceled their convention because the possibility of a snowstorm exists. Dude, we live in New Hampshire. We don't cancel stuff because of a snowstorm. Are you kidding me? Watch, now I'm going to get an email from the libertarians saying, we're postponing our convention because of a snowstorm. No, I don't actually think that'll happen. I don't. All right, so that's what's going on tomorrow. And I hope you guys will join me at 2 p.m. for that. All right, let's jump into now. I wanted to start off by showing you this. Thank you to my wonderful anonymous, of course, local supporter who sent me this beauty from the American Journal of Psychiatry. I wanted to start off with this because I am deeply concerned that there will be a mental health crisis in this country. I think it's going to get bad. I think it's going to get really bad. I am especially concerned about children. Anyone under basically anyone under 10 years old when anyone under 10 years old now, I am deeply worried about. But I do think that this mental health crisis is going to impact everyone. And the problem with that is that we literally do not have the professionals to care for people because not only the industry of psychology, which is, of course, what I am a member of, but also the field of psychiatry, which is which is the one that prescribes the drugs. So even better, they've all gone woke. They have all gone completely woke. The American Psychiatric Association has been one of the major groups lobbying in favor of vaccine mandates from the very beginning. The American Psychiatric Association. They're completely woke. The American Psychiatric Association has done extensive diversity training in their organization. They've done crazy diversity training in their organization. They just the other day required their employees. I don't know if it was required or optional, but it was suggested if it wasn't required. Like they required their employees to play a woke board game in which they had to play an oppressed character in a board game and find out how many oppression points they had in the board game. We're going to be looking at this board game at some point. Don't you worry. This board game is nuts. But I just want to read this. This is just the abstract for this but this is from the editor in chief from this journal. Dismantling, and this just barely came out. Dismantling structural racism in psychiatry, a path to mental health equity. God dang, I don't know what's wrong with my throat today. One of the most important, you know what I'm going to do? Okay, here's a pro tip. You guys didn't even expect this. When you're having problems with your throat, you can do what I do and put a little essential oil on your throat. This is specifically for the throat chakra. The throat chakra is our chakra that pertains to communication. It also, by the way, our communication chakra also pertains to self-worth and self-esteem. That's why our inclination to communicate, our inclination to express ourselves is directly related to how we feel about ourselves. That's a different topic for a different day. You guys didn't come here to hear about chakras today. One of the most important and relevant articles that we published in the journal is a call to action for psychiatry to confront and change the structural racism framework that significantly contributes to the mental health inequities. Dr. Ruth Shim from the University of California at Davis begins by reviewing the concepts of race, structural racism, healthcare inequities, disparities, and social injustices. She draws attention to the different meanings of the terms disparities and inequities as they relate to healthcare delivery. By doing so, she advocates for the preferential use of the term inequities links disparities in the delivery of care to the unjust policies and discrimination that drove those inequities. Who wants to bet that the American Psychiatric Association could not actually name any of those unjust policies? She also explicitly discusses the history of racism in psychiatry and describes how contemporary structural racism policies, like residential segregation and the war on drugs, the war on drugs we can agree on, affect the social detriments of health that result in our present day inequities in the delivery of and access to mental health care. We're not going to read this article. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that this literally did just get printed in the latest version of the American Journal of Psychiatry that is out right now, and they sent an email about it out about it like 2 days ago. So fun times. All right, let's dig into the does Twitter make people insane articles. Now, this is I want to view this one at first because it's like a literature review. Let me get it on the screen. Like you guys do. So, how I generally look at articles is the first thing I do is I start by reading the abstract. The next thing I do, this is a little bit of a shorter article, is I go down and I read the conclusions. Oftentimes in articles, you're going to read similar information in the abstract and the conclusions, but basically the abstract's going to give us a good overview of what the article's about, and then the conclusions will tell us, the conclusions. And then if I'm interested in the conclusions, I go back and I look at the literature review and I look at the results that they got, or I look at how they executed the strategy, and I look at the actual results that they got, and that just saves a lot of time, quite frankly, because oftentimes with articles, it's not about confirmation bias. I know I talked about confirmation bias earlier. For me, I'm completely open to finding information that contradicts what I think. But a lot of times with academic writers, they're frankly really crappy writers, and you want to make sure that your article actually addresses the questions that you have. And so, reading the abstract and then the conclusion first can give you a really quick assessment of, does this article even talk about things that I'm interested in? Because oftentimes titles will be just like they'll be what, oh god, what is the word? Misleading information. The titles will sound like the article means one thing, and then you actually get the article and you spend a whole like hour reading the damn article and you find out it's actually about a completely different thing. So it kind of speeds things up. So that's generally how I approach things. I do want to say that I do actually like this article actually included inclusion exclusion criteria. Does anyone know what inclusion exclusion criteria is in the chat? Chat in if you know what it is. I'll explain it. It's actually really important. And it's not something that I really see show up in a lot of articles. Deborah, you should know this. Yeah, Deborah says this is how I was taught to read academic articles. Yeah, because the thing is, like, academic articles can take a long time to read. They can take a lot of energy, and you want to make sure that you're putting and there are like 10 bajillion of them out there. And so you want to make sure that you're reading things that are actually relevant to the questions you have. You're using your time well. It's just a matter of efficiency at the end of the day. So inclusion exclusion criteria is something that I always look for when I'm looking at articles, when I'm actually looking at how they do their research, because oftentimes people will take academic articles and they will make those academic articles seem like they are broadly generalizable to everyone, when in fact they're not. The debate bros on the internet, they do this crap all the flipping time. They take one academic article and they've all got a whole list of academic articles. This article says this. Well, when you actually read the article and you actually look at who was included in that study and who was not included in that study, you find out that the conclusion that they led you to say this article says this thing, it doesn't actually mean what you think it does. So the inclusion exclusion criteria just tells you what are the parameters by which the researchers decided to include participants in the study or exclude participants in the study. So for example, for like the one study that I've done, because I didn't never got into doing research, but like I did my dissertation, right? So my dissertation had a whole long list of inclusion exclusion criteria. So for example, I included people who were under the age of 35 because I was specifically looking at young professionals. So I wanted people roughly within the first 10 years of their professional career. So the inclusion criteria was people under 35. The exclusion criteria was I did not include people who were over the age of 35. So no one can look at my article, my dissertation, and say, Carlin did a study that tells us how people cope with being bullied in the workplace. Well, no, I didn't. I did a study that talks about how young professionals cope with being bullied in the workplace. And those are two fundamentally different things because when you're applying your results to the real world, you want to make sure that the study actually studied the things that you're applying it to. Because most of the time, with most studies, the scope of application is actually like really, 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 really narrow, much more narrow than people would have you believe if you like read the newspaper articles. It's usually really narrow. And I think one or both of these studies also discusses limitations, so we might talk about that some more. But let's go back and read the abstract. This again is called Social Media Use and its Connection to Mental Health, a systematic review. Social media are responsible for aggravating mental health problems. Okay, so we already know what their argument is. It's responsible for aggravating mental health problems. Oh, I can't highlight. Boo. This systematic study summarizes the effects of social network usage on mental health. 50 papers were shortlisted from Google Scholar databases, and after the application of various inclusion exclusion criteria, 16 papers were chosen and all papers were evaluated for quality. 8 papers were cross-sectional longitudinal studies, 3 were longitudinal studies, 2 were qualitative studies, and others were systematic reviews. I actually like that they included a variety of types of studies in this. I like that. That's good. Findings were classified into 2 outcomes of mental health: anxiety and depression. Social media activity, such as time spent to have a positive effect on the mental health domain, hang on. Social media activities such as time spent to have that sentence is awfully worded. However, due to the cross-sectional nature, design, and methodological limitations of sampling, there are considerable differences. The structure of social media influences on mental health needs to be further analyzed through qualitative research and vertical cohort studies. All right, so it sounds like they came up with some general findings in this, but what they were trying to do, and this is important when you're looking at research studies, what they're trying to do with this study and with this paper is it doesn't sound like they're actually coming to any concrete conclusions. What they're trying to do is lay the basis for future study in this area, which that's an important point. There are no conclusions in this one. They're just laying the groundwork for future research. So then we go to their conclusions and we read that social media is a new study that is rapidly growing and gaining popularity. Thus, there are many unexplored and unexpected constructed answers associated with it. Lately, studies have found that using social media platforms can have a detrimental effect on the psychological health of its users. However, the extent to which the use of social media impacts the public is yet to be determined. This systematic review has found that social media envy can affect the level of anxiety and depression in individuals. In addition, other potential causes of anxiety and depression have been identified, which require further exploration. So it looks like they're zoning in specifically on the idea of envy. I think that I'm going to be interested to see how they define that. That's something we should look for when we go back. How are they defining envy? The importance of such findings is to facilitate further research on social media and mental health. In addition, the information obtained from this study can be helpful not only to the medical professionals but also to social science research. The findings of this study suggest the potential causal factors from social media can be considered when cooperating with patients who have been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Also, if the results from this study were used to explore more relationships within another construct, they could potentially enhance the findings to reduce anxiety and depression rates and prevent other things from occurring that we don't want to occur. All right. Does this sound interesting to people? I think it sounds kind of interesting. This is a relatively short article, actually. All right. What I want to do, let's see. So they're just talking about the first paragraph in this is just talking about social media in general, so I don't feel a strong need to read that. Impact on mental health. Mental health is defined as a state of well being, in which people understand their abilities, solve everyday life problems, work well, and make significant contributions to the lives of their communities. There is debate presently going on regarding the benefits and negative impacts of social media on mental health. Social networking is a crucial element in protecting our mental health. Both the quantity and quality of social relationships affect mental health, health behavior, physical health, and mortality risk. The displaced behavior theory may help to explain why social media shows a connection with mental health. According to the theory, people who spend more time in sedentary behaviors such as social media use have less time for face-to-face social interaction, both of which have been proven to be protective against mental disorders. On the other hand, social theories found how social media use affects mental health by influencing how people view, maintain, and interact with their social network. A number of studies have been conducted on the impacts of social media, and it has been indicated that the prolonged use of social media platforms such as Facebook may be related to negative signs and symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress. Furthermore, social media can create a lot of pressure to create that stereotype that others want to see and also being as popular as others. So what it's talking about is essentially like people are looking for clout on the internet. They mistake likes and followers and retweets with things that are real. I just want to say here, unrelated to this study, guys, as someone who has gotten probably hundreds of millions of views on social media at this point, it's not real. And I really want everyone to hear that because there was a time in my life when I thought it was. There was a time in my life when I really thought that I would be much happier if I had a big Twitter following or I had a big platform that I could talk to people on. I thought it would make my life better. I thought it would make me happier. I thought it would make me feel more accepted. I thought it would make me feel more validated about who I am. I have gotten minimally tens of millions of views on social media, but probably no, I'm going to say it. I've gotten hundreds of millions of views on social media. I have. Sorry. Between Twitter and fucking YouTube and all the different tweets and all of that stuff and all of the views that have been on all my articles and content, I've gotten hundreds of millions of views on social media. None of it has made me happier. None of it has made me more fulfilled. None of it I won't say it hasn't made my life better. I think it's made my life different, but it has not made my life like I wouldn't say that my life is quantifiably better because I've had lots of views on social media. It does give me opportunities I wouldn't otherwise have, and that's good. It gives me the opportunity to talk to you guys. It gives me a platform to be able to share ideas and hopefully to help people. But the numbers don't mean anything. Even if I have a tweet go viral and it gets millions of views, it doesn't change who I am as a person. It doesn't change the human relationships that I have. It doesn't make life better. It gives you that short, yeah, John Morgan says in the chat, it gives you that short dopamine burst. And that can be nice sometimes. Like, listen, it can be thrilling. When, like, all those times that Trump retweeted me, that was thrilling. It was thrilling to be retweeted not only by the president of the United States, but also with someone with like 80 million followers. Like, that's crazy. But after that burst and after that excitement, it goes away quickly. And I know that might be hard to understand if you're one of those people that, maybe you don't have as big of a platform or you're chasing these things, or maybe you've had one or two instances where something you said went viral on the internet and it was really fun and really exciting. But I just really want people to hear from someone that it does not make life better. You've got to focus in on serving other people, on helping other people, on contributing things of value to the world. That's what's going to make your life better, not clicks on Twitter. Okay, this is just talking about the need for the study, so we don't need to look at that. This is talking about how they selected the articles. I don't think we need to look at that. All right, here's what I want to get to, the results. Of the 16 selected research papers, there was a research focus on adults, gender, and pre-adolescence. In the designs, there were qualitative and quantitative studies. There were 3 systematic reviews and 1 thematic analysis that explored the better or worse of social media under adolescence. In addition, 8 were cross-sectional, blah, 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 blah. Lots of charts, discussion. This study has attempted to systematically analyze the existing literature on the effect of social media use on mental health. Although the results of this study were not completely consistent, this review found a general association between social media use and mental health issues. Although there is positive evidence for a link between social media and mental health, the opposite has been reported. For example, a previous study found no relationship between the amount of time spent on social media and depression, or between social media related activities such as the number of online friends and the number of selfies and depression. Similarly, Nira and Barber found that while higher investment in social media, i.e., active social media use, predicted adolescents' depressive symptoms, no relationship has been found between the frequency of social media use and depression and depressed mood. I find that hard to believe. But whatever. In the 16 studies, anxiety and depression were the most commonly measured outcomes. The prominent risk factors for anxiety and depression emerging from this study comprised time spent, activity, and addiction to social media. In today's world, anxiety is one of the basic mental health problems. People liked and commented on their uploaded photos and videos. In today's age, everyone is immune to the social media context. Some teens experience anxiety about their social media related to fear of loss, which causes teens to try to respond and check all of their friends' messages and messages on a regular basis. On the contrary, depression is one of the most unintended significances of unnecessary use of social media. In detail, depression is limited not only to Facebook, but also to other social networking sites, which cause psychological problems. A new study found that individuals who are involved in social media, games, texts, mobile phones, etc., are more likely to experience depression. The previous study found a 70%, holy shit. Look at this. The previous study found a 70% increase in self reported depressive symptoms among groups using social media. John Morgan says that seems so simplified, though. So, this is a literature review. So it's going to be simplified. What you want to do with a literature review is if a study or a piece of literature or a finding gets your attention, you then go back and you read the original study. But literature reviews are basically like they're big lists of published research saying this study says this study says that. It's trying to aggregate all the research together to give you a conclusion. But I'm going to say that a study, and maybe this is something I look at on a future stream, that found a 70% increase in self reported depressive symptoms among groups using social media. Yeah, Deborah, that is absolutely, I think, probably a statistically significant finding. The other social media influence that causes depression is sexual fun. Isn't that funny? The intimacy fun happens when social media promotes putting on a facade that highlights the fun and excitement. By the way, mount that like button if you haven't already. Ha ha, pun intended. Putting on a facade that highlights the fun and excitement that does not tell us much about where we are struggling in our lives, in our daily lives at a deeper level. Another study revealed that depression and time spent on Facebook by adolescents are positively correlated. More importantly, symptoms of major depression have been found among the individuals who spent most of their time in online activities and performing image management on social media sites. Image management. Per- Teenagers performing image management on social media sites. This is why I don't take Twitter seriously. So many people have said to me about Twitter, they're like, Carlin, are you not concerned about optics on Twitter? And I say no, because I am not performing image management on my social media. And I'm especially not performing it now that I know it's actually linked to effing depression. That makes so much sense. Another study assessed gender differences in association between social media use and mental health. Females were found to be more addicted to social media as compared to males. Passive activity in social media, such as reading posts, is more strongly associated with depression than doing active things like making posts. Oh, isn't that interesting? Another important finding in this review suggests that other factors, such as interpersonal trust and family functioning, may have a greater influence on the symptoms of depression and the frequency of social media use. All right, so this gives us a good general overview. Why I wanted to start with this one, what I suspected would happen, is it's basically a good general overview of like, yeah, social media is probably making people insane. It basically says that social media is leading to greater rates of anxiety and depression. It looks like they looked at specifically teenagers, but there is broad applicability to other age groups within the limitations of the study. Ultimately, they say it necessitated further study, but it looks like there are definitely links there. Now, what I want to do next is look at this study. Again, I want to thank Karen and my locals community for sending this study in. I hope that that's big enough. It's going to be a little bit bigger. Gotta make it big enough that you guys can see, but small enough so I can still fit it on my screen and read. All right. So this is in the Journal of Medical Internet Research. I had no idea such a thing existed. Social media insights into US mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic, a longitudinal analysis of Twitter data. So, this study, I don't believe that this study Fish Addict, we didn't actually read the studies. What I read was the literature review. Don't have a fucking cow, man. Relax. We didn't read the studies. It said there was a 70% like increase in that one study. Relax. If you want to go read the studies, you're welcome to. All right. So I question what this study is going to say. And the first thing I think that I think is the problem um Andrew brings up a question. We're not addressing this topic today, but I want to make this point. And narcissism. Guys, narcissism is not as big of a problem as most of you think it is. It's not. We have a much bigger problem with a lack of self-esteem than we do have with narcissism. And to be quite frank, and Andrew, I'm not mad at you, but this is a very frustrating topic to me. To be quite frank, calling someone who has low self esteem a narcissist is not actually going to help them because it's only going to reinforce low self esteem. We do not have a narcissism problem. Narcissistic personality disorder impacts like 6% of the population. It is not the level of problem that most people think it is. We do have a very big problem with a lack of self-esteem. No, Hallie, narcissists don't have. So Hallie asked in the chat, don't narcissists basically have low self-esteem? No. Narcissists absolutely do not have low self-esteem. Narcissists are what narcissistic personality disorder is, and I have actually studied this topic extensively. What narcissistic personality disorder is basically a narcissist, a real narcissist, is allowed to is not allowed, is capable of shaping their entire view of the world around them being the center of the universe. They are the greatest. They are the best. They are the most rich, the most successful, the person that everyone wants to be. They literally are able to psychologically manipulate how they perceive everyone in their experience. So they are constantly reinforcing for the narcissist that they are the best. No, I wouldn't say it's lack of insight. It is a personality disorder. It's a personality disorder. It usually starts in childhood. It usually has to do with the relationship of the mother. And it is a sad thing. It is a sad, sad, sad thing when someone's a narcissist because it is virtually impossible to cure narcissistic personality disorder. It only happens 2% of the time, and it has to do with how their brain is wired. They are literally not capable of seeing themselves the way that other people see them. So it's a sad thing. But what we are dealing with on social media is the vast majority of the time, it is not narcissism. It is a lack of self esteem and it is a lack of self worth. Anytime anyone is looking for validation from other people, it is because they are not giving themselves the validation that they need. Narcissists give themselves the validation they need all the time. Narcissists don't actually need validation from anyone else. They give themselves enough validation for to like maintain several lifetimes, to be honest. But when you're looking at things like the woke, when they're constantly demanding that we accept them for who they are, that's looking for validation outside of yourself. If the woke were real narcissists, they would not give one flip what anyone thought about their experience. They would not give one flip if people accepted their pronouns. They would not care. It's a sign of a lack of self-esteem, not of narcissism. And I'm going to keep saying this until people start to understand it. All right. So we're going to start again by reading the abstract. This abstract's formatted a little differently. Then we're going to read the conclusions, and then we're going to decide if this is something we want to invest further energy into. Background. The COVID-19 pandemic led to unprecedented mitigation efforts that disrupted the daily lives of millions. Beyond the general health repercussions of the pandemic itself, these measures also present a challenge to the world's mental health and healthcare systems. All right, so what this study is saying is it's more about the mental health of COVID than it is about the mental health of Twitter, right? But that doesn't mean we can't take learnings from this study because they use Twitter as their research tool. No. Okay. People need to stop talking about cluster B personality disorders as though they know what they're talking about. I don't have a problem with you, loquacious primate, but like the people who are pushing this cluster B personality crap on YouTube, especially, to be quite frank, most of them have serious mental health problems. Yeah, I said it. The people that are talking about cluster B personality disorders on YouTube, in the majority of cases, not in all cases, but in the majority of cases, they don't know what they're talking about. And they have actual mental health problems that they're working through live on YouTube, trying to convince everyone and their mother that everyone else has a cluster B personality disorder because they're working through their own feelings about their relationship with their mother. So no. Wait, when you guys follow, okay, again, I'm not mad at anyone here, but when you guys follow YouTube people who talk about cluster B personality disorders, what you're doing is you're literally going down the rabbit hole into their particular brand of insanity. They're not giving you accurate information. They're giving you information that is helping them process the relationship they had with their mother, who was probably a difficult mother to have, and I'm not taking that away. But they're processing their own feelings on YouTube for your guys' entertainment and then convincing everyone that everyone has a cluster B personality disorder that actually doesn't. It's just like it's a certain type of person. We're not talking about personality disorders today, but I genuinely do mean this, guys. Do not listen to people on YouTube unless they are a qualified psychologist or mental health professional, not a funeral director. We don't listen to funeral directors who had narcissistic parents that dabble in psychology that have never practiced in real life. Looking at you, Disaffected Podcast. We don't listen to those people because they don't know what they're talking about. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to call him out specifically. That Disaffected Podcast asshole has a fucked up relationship with his mother that he is now projecting onto everyone else. He is not the person you want to listen to. He is a funeral director. He is literally a funeral director that dabbles in psychology to explain his effed up relationship with his mother. I'm sorry. All right, let's read this article. The COVID-19 pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Considering the traditional survey methods are time consuming and expensive, we need timely and proactive data sources to respond to the rapidly evolving effects of healthcare policy on the population's mental health. Many people in the United States now use social media platforms such as Twitter to express the most minute details of their daily lives and social relations. This behavior is expected to increase during the COVID-19 pandemic, rendering social media data a rich field to understand personal well-being. So basically, what we're going to be looking at in this study is they're analyzing people's mental health based on tweets. Now, I don't want to out of hand reject the study yet, but I will say that I don't actually have a positive affinity towards people who diagnose mental health problems based on tweets. But I do want to leave the door open to the fact that maybe they did it in a productive way. I don't know what their methodology is yet, but we're going to find out. Objective. This study aims to answer 3 research questions. What themes emerge from a corpus of US tweets about COVID-19? 2. To what extent did social media use increase during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic? And 3. Does sentiment change in response to the COVID-19 pandemic? Methods. We analyzed 86 million public domain English language tweets collected from an open access library repository in 3 steps. Guys, I wonder if any of our tweets were analyzed in this study. Wouldn't that be interesting to find? Were any of our personal tweets analyzed in this study? First, we characterized the evolution of hashtags over time using latent LDA topic modeling. Secondly, we increased the granularity of this analysis by downloading Twitter timelines of a large cohort of individuals, 354,000 people in 20 major US cities to assess changes in social media use. Finally, using this timeline data, we examined collective shifts in the public mood in relation to evolving pandemic news cycles by analyzing the average daily sentiment of all timeline tweets with the Vader tool. The Vader tool. Yeah, that guy is crazy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if anyone listens to that disaffected podcast asshole, but he is nuts. He is like the creepiest person. See, we're doing serious stuff today, so I'll give you guys some internet gossip in between just to keep you interested. Like he is he is one of the creepiest people I've ever watched in my life. Extraordinarily creepy. And it's like he got suspended on Twitter recently. I wasn't that upset about that. But like I don't know why dude, I literally have seen tweets from this guy where he's talking about being a narcissist. He just has mommy issues. That's all it is. He just has mommy issues. Rachel, good to see you again, Rachel. Any opinion on hypochondriacs? Maybe not the right term. Asking because my brother in law moans and can't get off the couch over a paper cut. Can't even take my sister in labor to the hospital because he has a tummy ache. He is living a deeply, this is not about hypochondria. He's not afraid of the damn paper cut. Rachel also says this is unrelated, but I'm curious. Okay, he is not afraid of the paper cut. If he's not taking if he's not taking his wife who is giving birth to the hospital, that is because he is afraid of fathering that child. He's trying to avoid it. Listen, guys, if you want to know the basic motivations behind why people act like they do, people are operating from one of 2 places at all times. They are either operating from a place of love or they are operating from a place of fear. I kind of touch on this in my book, and Actively Unwoke. I talk about how there are creators and destroyers in the world. Some of you guys have heard me give this rant before. There are 2 types of people in the world. There are creators and there are destroyers. Creators build things, they give value to the world, they have self-esteem, so they know that they can do stuff, they know that their work is valuable, they know their thoughts are valuable, things like that. Destroyers do not have self-esteem, and so instead of building and giving something to the world, they don't have the self-esteem to do it, and so instead they try to destroy the good work of others, and they get their self-worth through destruction, which is really sad. But it's kind of the same thing here. If you're either operating from a place of love or you're operating from a place of fear, okay? And if we are in a place of love, we're a creator. If we're from a place of fear, we're a destroyer. And we're operating from one of those two places at any given time, right? So, most of the time, when people are doing something that is crazy or people are doing something that you don't understand, just make the assumption that they are operating from a place of fear because they usually are. And then once you assess, okay, this person's operating from a place of fear, well, what are they afraid of? If someone's not taking his pregnant wife to the hospital in order to give birth to his spawn, then he is probably afraid of having a child. He is probably afraid of having that of maybe even the relationship with his wife. Does he think that the marriage is on the rocks? Is he afraid of how the child will impact the marriage? He's afraid of something going on with that child. It has nothing to do with a paper cut. Usually what people believe is the problem has nothing to do with the problem. All right. Let's go back. Look at this article. You guys got your gossip. Guys, if you're enjoying this, I stream every day, Sunday, Tuesday, Sunday. I skipped a whole day. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on my main channel at 5 p.m. Please make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already. Please make sure you have mounted that like button if you have not done so. All right. So they analyzed a lot of tweets. Results. LDA topics generated in the early months of the dataset set corresponded to the major COVID-19 specific events. However, as state and municipal governments began issuing stay-at-home orders, latent themes shifted towards US-related lifestyle changes rather than global pandemic-related news. Social media volume also increased significantly, peaking during stay-at-home mandates. Finally, Vader sentiment analysis scores of user timelines were initially high and stable but decreased significantly and continually by late March. Conclusions. Our findings underscore the negative effects of the pandemic on overall population sentiment. Increased use rates suggest that for some, social media may be a coping mechanism to combat feelings of isolation related to long term social distancing. However, in light of the documented negative effects of heavy social media use on mental health, social media may further exacerbate negative feelings in the long term for many individuals. Thus, considering the overburdened U.S. mental health case structure, these findings have important implications for ongoing mitigation efforts. Didn't Slocum? We're gonna talk about Josh Slocum all day. Apparently, I don't even watch this guy's show because I find him so creepy. Well, I don't really watch anyone's show, to be fair. I am an equal opportunity not watcher of people's shows. I don't watch anyone's show. Didn't Slocum openly say he was diagnosed as narcissistic and borderline at one point in his life? Those aren't things we're ever cured of. Those aren't things we're ever cured of, Josh. That guy's insane. I'm sorry. I don't diagnose people on the internet as a rule. But this guy has some serious mommy issues. He does. And I feel comfortable diagnosing him because he's called me a narcissist 19 different ways from Sunday. So, he and that whole little crew. Have fun on Getter, Josh. Now that you're banned on Twitter. Being an idiot. Guys, side note, not getting banned on Twitter is like a reasonably easy thing to do. I really think people who get banned on Twitter like want to be banned on Twitter. Not all of them. I have a friend, one of my friends, Joshua Smith, not to be confused with Josh Slocum. Joshua Smith, he's a libertarian. He got banned on Twitter for sending a one-word tweet. It just said death. And Twitter banned him for that. So that was bullshit. I don't think he was trying to get banned. I think that was an accident. But most people who get banned on Twitter want to be banned on Twitter. And I say that because they keep talking about things and tweeting things that they know are like Twitter's like angry points where they're going to ban you. I'm not gonna get well, I'm absolutely going to get banned on Twitter at some point, but it's not gonna be because 'cause I'm talking about trans issues. First of all, because I just don't care about trans issues, but that's I make a proactive choice not to talk about it because I just don't wanna risk it. I'm not gonna be talking about I haven't talked about COVID or vaccines or any of these things and it's not because I don't well, it is partially because I just don't care, but, like, mostly it's because I know it's a hot button topic, and if I don't wanna lose my Twitter account, then I'm not gonna talk about it. Like, I'm gonna make a choice to prioritize the existence of my Twitter account over being the 187th millionth person to say that masks may not work, but you should also consult with the CDC for all your mask related advice. I hear they're advising, N95 masks or whatever. You should absolutely check with the CDC for information on that. But I'm not going to say that shit on Twitter because I don't want to lose my account. It's a simple matter of priorities, man. And I really do think that a lot of people get clout from being like, "Oh, I got banned on Twitter." Well, congratulations, and now you don't have a Twitter account, and now you can't reach the people that, like, you would have reached otherwise. The only platform I have ever gotten banned from was change.org. That was it. I got banned from change.org for putting up a petition demanding AOC's resignation and getting 10,000 signatures within 48 hours. And then they banned me. They banned me just as I hit 10,000 signatures. Yeah, they want to get banned on Twitter. I really do believe that. Brooks, the like button knows exactly what to do with its thumb. A survey found that 100% of users would mount it. Again, guys, please mount that like button hard. The like button can take it. You don't need to worry about hurting the like button. You can do anything you want to the like button. You can mount the like button. You can caress the like button. You can do whatever fantasy you have in your head to the like button. It's okay. All right. So I don't know that I don't know. Oh, the dislike button came back? Meh, whatever. That change.org petition was legit. It was. And they banned me for it. Change.org does not believe in the power of the people. All right. I'm not sure this study is going to actually give us the type of information we're looking for, but we're going to follow our steps anyway. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to conclusions. I don't want to read discussion right now. I want conclusions. Concluding remarks and implications. Okay, perfect. At the time of writing, the US COVID-19 death toll was just over 136,000, with millions of lives of people disrupted by the various effects of the pandemic. This study elucidates is such a great word. We should use that word more in common parlance. This study elucidates the possible mental health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic among Twitter users using a computational approach to analyze a corpus of all archived US-based COVID-19 tweets from January to April 2020. Oh, I would say there is a good sporting bet that all of our tweets were included in this study. That's actually kind of cool. This analysis revealed to varying extents how the pervasiveness of COVID-19 content available on social media and abrupt shift in lifestyles may be negatively affecting social media sentiment relative to points just prior to the pandemic. Okay, so what the study found is that they're saying that COVID made social media sentiment more negative. That's legit. That's legit. Emphasize says, I guess this isn't the right time to ask what you really think about me. Emphasize, I am very grateful for your support of my channel, and I will continue to be grateful of it. I unblocked you on Twitter. I did. I'm gonna be honest, you were a little bit crotchety in the email you sent me. But you did send me the email I requested asking to be unblocked on Twitter, and I did, in fact, unblock you on Twitter, and I do greatly appreciate the support. There you go. Where did I leave off? Given that sentiments expressed on social media have been used as a proxy for mental well being, these findings support calls from public health and medical scholars who contend that mental health is an urgent concern during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially as our findings illustrate a declining trend in sentiment. Thus, we encourage further research on U.S. mental health status amid the pandemic using survey methods or other primary data collections to substantiate our findings with testable outcomes. So this is something you always want to look for in research, guys. Like, look for what the researchers are saying is the next step, because again, this is a debate bro thing where the debate bros on like Twitch and things will use a study and say this is like the end all be all of this thing. Well, most of the time, the actual authors of the study has said, here are the next steps and the additional information that we need. And so if the research is actually proactively offered that there needs to be additional research in this area, that's something that you can pull in if you end up in you're in one of those like debate bro situations to say, no, 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 leftist on the internet, because the authors of this study actually say in the study this needs more research. Thanks for dropping by, Deborah. Appreciate it. We call for more research on mental health interventions amidst COVID-19. Okay. Limitations. Our study is subject to limitations. Twitter requires users to opt into geotagging figures, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care about that. All right. So, based on this, I don't think that this study actually speaks to specifically what I was interested in. I mean, it's interesting. It is interesting that they were able to track that social. I mean, maybe there is something to the fact that, you know, I think Twitter has probably always made people insane. But what is it? It's like a comorbidity. That's what this is. It's a comorbidity. We all know that word now. So, what I think this study would probably maybe suggest, maybe not overtly, but this is what I'm going to infer, that Twitter has always made people insane, but the additional comorbidity of the pandemic just actually made people more insane. And they were able to pick up on a change in sentiment actually on Twitter during the pandemic. So Twitter has always made people insane, but then you add this extra stressor onto it that completely disrupts our world unnecessarily. And all of a sudden, you're taking a tool that already was making people insane and it makes them like 10% more insane. 10% more insane is like a lot. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. Let me just scroll through this study and see if there's anything else that looks interesting to read. Methods, data. This is awful. I almost never read the analysis and studies. Never, ever. It's usually boring, doesn't tell you anything. All right, results. We consolidated the COVID-19 corpus into themes using LDA, blah, blah, blah. Figure 1 highlights the 8 most salient topics and how their prominence with a bar and rank change over time relative to COVID-19 related milestones. Let's just take a look. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, I like how they did this. So one of the things I want to figure out a way to do this, and if you guys have any suggestions on how to do this, please let me know. But one of the things I want to figure out how to do is to track how definitions of things change over time, like in the news. Because one of the things that's happened, and I'm a little regretful of this with Actively Unwoke. So I wrote Actively Unwoke like early last year, right? So the book is coming out in April, but I wrote it between April and July of last year. Okay. So a lot has changed since I wrote the book and when it's coming out. And one of the things that's happened since I wrote the book is the woke have started to use whiteness more. So they weren't, when I was writing the book, they weren't using whiteness as much. And so I don't think I even included that in the book. I mentioned it here and there, but I didn't include it as a major component because when I wrote the book, they weren't using it as much, and then they started using the term whiteness to mean, like, who owns the power structure and calling Larry Elder a white supremacist and stuff like that. I definitely touched on multiracial whiteness in the book. It's not quite the same, well, it's very similar, but not quite the same thing. Anyway, what I wanna do is create some way for us to be able to track how the woke are using different words and definitions over time. So if you look at this chart, this is actually kinda interesting because look what they're doing. They're tracking, like, topic evaluation, China, China, China. Look at all the tweets about China, 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 China. And then we have Trump, and then China again, and then this orange one is pandemic. That really started in March. So you can see, like, the term pandemic started out relatively low level on Twitter and then keeps going up and up and up in usage and then down in March and then boom, that's when the lockdowns happened. This is when the lockdowns happened. Or when not the lockdown, like 15 days to slow the spread. So you have social distancing, 15 days to slow the spread. That's when that really peaked. Home, deaths. Isn't that interesting? Trump is green. Trump comes up in February. Trump was a very hot topic in March, and then boom. Judy, Trump should have been orange. Oh my God, what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. All right. To what extent did social media use increase during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic? Using user timeline data, we compared the frequency of social media posts before and during the pandemic of 292,000 users whose timelines spanned July 22nd onwards in the 20 most affected metropolitan cities. Figure 3 highlights the changes in post volume between January 22nd and April 9th, 2020. The peaks and troughs, dotted dashed line, of the graph shows how seasonal and weekly cycles shaped tweet volume. Oh, look at that. Isn't that interesting? So you can see it definitely did increase social media use during the pandemic, which is probably why people were being even more insane. Generally, we observed a consistent upward trend in total Twitter volume from early to late March. The Pelt change point algorithm identified two significant volume changes on March 8th and March 12th, around the time the COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic. And President Trump declared a national emergency in the US on the 14th. The upward trend stabilized thereafter, albeit higher observed volumes than prior to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. All right. So, generally, what this article says is that they do believe that negative sentiment went up, but they also don't relate it directly back to Twitter. They just use Twitter to measure negative sentiment. So, again, my final say for this is I do think Twitter makes people insane. I don't think we have a study to prove that Twitter makes people insane yet. But what we do have is this study that said the big takeaway from this study that I thought that I want to go do more research on was this one. This is the big, I think, thing that I want to look at. The previous study, which they're talking about in this paragraph here, found a 70% increase in self-reported depressive symptoms among groups using social media. That's important because if there was an increase in social media and Twitter use during COVID-19, then that's going to impact mental health. And also, if just COVID-19 in general increased social media use and there is a negative correlation between social media or a positive correlation between social media use and mental health problems and social media use increases during the pandemic, then I think we can start to get a picture that not only does Twitter make people insane, but the additional compounding factor of the pandemic on top of it may have made people additionally insane, even if it's just a little bit more insane. That's significant. Like a little bit of insanity goes a long way. So that's the conclusion I came to. Guys, let me know if you have a different conclusion in the chat. I would be interested in that. No, correlation does not equal causation, but there's a plethora of studies saying that social media use increases anxiety and depression. So it's not like there's just one. Guys, you need to fucking settle down. I say this with all due respect, but we looked at 2 papers and we're drawing some generalized conclusions. I am not going to get into the weeds of doing statistical analysis or anything like that. If they're not the conclusions you like, then you're welcome to go read the papers. You're welcome to do your own research. You're welcome to look at all the details of how they did it. I've been streaming for an hour and a half. I don't have the time to do all that. And I'm not frankly inclined. And by the way, guys, if you're feeling annoyed that Twitter may have made you more insane and you're feeling like personally attacked, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. You're the one making the decision to be on Twitter. But I'm gonna be honest, there is nothing that you can say to me. There is absolutely nothing that you can say to me. I know you're not trying to slam me, dude. That's not it's like you know what it is? It's like it's annoying when you're trying to do a good general overview of a study to give people ideas, something to think about, and then someone comes in and is like, "Well, Carlin, this is the technical answer of what that really means." Blah, 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 blah. It's not the point. It's not the point of the stream. But you will never, ever, 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 ever convince me that Twitter does not make people insane. I really think it does. And for me, what I would say to you guys, if you feel like Twitter or social media, if you're using it too much, you need to either cut back on your social media usage or you need to stop taking it seriously. I think a really good rule of thumb in general with Twitter is that you never take Twitter seriously. You don't. Treat it like a game. Treat it like art. Play a character. Put yourself in. I'm gonna make myself big to say this. Twitter is one of those things that we can it can be a valuable tool. It can be a valuable tool for news. It can be a valuable tool for research. It can be a valuable tool for many things. I think there is tremendous value in practicing different types of characters that you would like to be. Again, I said this at the top, but not everyone has watched the whole stream. If you want to be a more powerful person in real life, use your Twitter and Gitter accounts to pretend to be a more powerful person, to play the role, to try it on for size. Talk like a more powerful person. Tweet like a more powerful person. If you want to be the person that gets all the girls, then act like the person who gets all the girls on Twitter. And if you do that enough on there, if you play that role enough, guess what? That's going to bleed into your normal life. If you want to argue on Twitter, if you like debating, then do it. But don't take Twitter seriously. Taking Twitter seriously is a kiss of death. It will make you insane. You will become depressed. You'll constantly become addicted to your phone. You'll become addicted to likes and retweets, and they don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. And never let anyone convince you they do. And again, I say this as someone who has had tens and probably hundreds of millions of views on social media. It doesn't mean anything. What means things are human connections in the real world. And that's why I spend so much time in my locals community, because I really do believe that locals is one of the few places on the internet in which people can make real, live, human connections. We've got some stuff coming up in locals next week. We have our 2 Zoom calls that we are doing on Monday at 7 p.m. and on Wednesday at noon. And the way you get access to those Zoom calls is by becoming a member in my locals. You can do that for $5 a month, less than a cup of coffee. You can do that for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. If you have recently joined my locals, because I've definitely had an influx of new members recently, please make sure that you come to one of our community Zooms. It's going to make it, guys, I promise you, my community Zooms will restore your faith in humanity. And not because I'm in there, because I usually don't say 2 words. Or I try to say very few words because I want to hear from you guys. I just feel like I have the best locals members, the best locals community in all of the internet. And so I don't know. You guys make it the best. I don't do anything. I just run the thing. But I also want to remind you guys, so coming up next week, if you go to activelyunwoke.com, I do have a webinar coming up next week that I want to make sure you know about. So if you go to this live events section on Actively Unwoke, you're going to see all sorts of webinars and events, including my locals book club that's coming up. But I do want to draw your particular attention to this one. On February 1st, which I believe is Tuesday of next week, I will be giving a free webinar, free, to help normal people understand what critical race theory is and why it's bad. This will be a very bare bones introduction to critical race theory. This is going to be great for your friends and family who maybe heard about it on the news or heard a kerfuffle at the school board or saw a letter to the editor about critical race theory, but they don't really know what it is. This is going to be the perfect thing to send them to. It is completely free, but it is in a private webinar platform because I want to protect the identities of the people coming to the webinar. I don't want people to get in trouble. I don't want people to get doxxed or any of that. And you're going to get a presentation from me about what critical race theory is, and you're going to get a chance to ask questions. Now, you're not going to have YouTube Carlin. YouTube Carlin is different than corporate trainer Carlin. Okay? And what I'm really trying to do with Actively Unwoke is I'm trying to bring my corporate training background, which is something I'm really effing good at, and I'm trying to appropriate it to help everyone fight back against the woke. And one of the things we're doing is this webinar series where I am bringing in experts, not just me, but people that are really fighting back in the real world to help you understand how to do things. So I'm helping understand critical race theory. We're going to do that next week. On February 11th, we've got Nicole Solis coming in. She's going to teach you how to write public records requests. She knows how to do it. Paul Rossi is going to visit us on February 17th. And he's going to show us what teacher diversity, equity, inclusion trainings are actually teaching. And it's insane, trust me. And I'm going to be bringing more experts as well. If you have a topic, and this is something that the Unwoke Army is going to brainstorm. If you have a topic that you would like to see addressed in one of these webinars, please let me know. And if you have a specific person you would like to come present it, let me know that too. Otherwise, I will try to find someone to address the topic. So I'm really looking forward to this webinar series. I'm very proud about it. I think it's going to help a lot of people. They are completely free, but space is limited. I have 500 people I can fit into these webinars. Mine is already like half full. Okay? So I do expect a lot of registrations over the next couple days. That's just how webinars work. Everyone registers at the last minute. But if you want to make sure you have your spot, head over to activelyunwoke.com and make sure that you sign up. All right, guys, I hopefully will be back in about an hour and a half, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to figure out how I can stream this webinar tonight. So this is starting at 8 p.m. And I'm going to try to figure out how I can stream this webinar so that you guys can hear it too. This is a webinar from a lefty group that's very concerned about the rise of school board disruptions. And I think it'll be fun to stream it and we can make fun of it. And, so we can all see. This is like spying. We're basically going to be a group of spies tonight. Hey, they sent me the Zoom link. This is really their fault. They sent me the Zoom link, so I'm going to try to stream it. So guys, I will be asking for help in my locals community. I'm going to pop a Zoom link into my locals community, like literally right after this call. If some people could come and join, and I can try to figure out the sound issue, because I'm having trouble getting the sound in Zoom to connect to the sound in StreamYard. If you guys can help me out for like 15 minutes, that'd be great. I think I might have it figured out, but I want to make sure. All right. And once I know I've got it done, I'm going to create the stream and we're going to come right back and we're going to be spies. It's going to be fun. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. As one last reminder, tomorrow, which is Friday, I always do happy hours on Friday. However, we usually do happy hours at 5 p.m. Tomorrow, we're doing it at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. because I have something I got to go do tomorrow night with the Libertarians. Okay? So come back for happy hour. We're going to be watching a brand new presentation that just got uploaded to YouTube today about equity in the curriculum of Philadelphia schools. Literally, you can see this just got uploaded today. I think I'm the only view. I am like the very last person that they wanted to find this webinar. I'll tell you that. But I have it. I have downloaded it just in case they pull it off of YouTube, in case they think better of this idea. And we will be watching that tomorrow at 2 p.m. on my second channel, Actively Unwoke, which is youtube.com/activelyunwoke. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. I'm going to pop that Zoom link into locals, but I will see you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. And if I don't see you at 2 p.m. tomorrow, just remember that I do stream on my main channel Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Sunday, I will be back for F'd Up News at 5 p.m. So I will see you guys on Sunday. Have a great day. I hope you guys have a great weekend if you don't come to my stream tomorrow, and I'll see you soon.